Yesterday, I wasn't saying 1% of The Last Jedi haters. I was saying the psycho ones. The Last Jedi haters are definitely not just 1% psychos. 1 out of maybe 20 that I encounter are reasonable. That's not true, Casinema. And that's not me jumping to conclusions. That's my assessment based on encounters with Last Jedi haters anywhere online. I think, no, you're only hearing the vocal minority. I really don't think, look, the vast majority of people, to me, that happen to dislike The Last Jedi just dislike it because it didn't work for them. And they don't like it. It did not work for them. They didn't think it was a good film. There you go. Then you've got 10% of those people are rabbling sexist, racist psychos.
Okay, John, how do you know that 10% of the Last Jedi haters are sexist, racist, etc.? I just have to ask. How do you know? Do you have a statistic? Do you have any evidence to support that claim? Do you even have evidence to support 1% of the Last Jedi haters are racist and sexist? You cannot substantiate this this claim with it's just an arbitrary number. And how would you even know when you don't want to engage with people who think that movie is bad, while I've proven time and time again that you have been shilling for Disney for years, and just call everyone who has a different opinion than you, that doesn't like The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, you call them cousin humping, man baby, racist, sexist Nazis. That's your go-to insult for basically any criticism people have against a movie you love and a company you chill for. And you have a wife that works for Hasbro that creates toys for Disney. And you never disclose this when you do reviews. That is a little bit curious. So how are we the moral defunct ones, yet you don't have even the decency to disclose that relationship, or even the relationship within Disney and Lucasfilm, where you get to go on premieres all the freaking time. You have to stop projecting and strawmanning your opponents. I just hate the fact that John Campea continues to do this to this day.
That unfortunately, what happens is, because you get this one group that are just, toxic, cancerous, racist, sexist psychos that try to apply their political agenda to The Last Jedi because it dared have a woman in it and it dared have a black guy in it. The unfortunate thing is that I think the majority of people, out of all the people who didn't like The Last Jedi, the majority of them just didn't like it for totally fair movie fan reasons. They just didn't like it, right? Just like I didn't like The Terminal and I don't like Prometheus. It didn't work for me. Those movies don't work for me. And I think the majority of people who would count themselves as non-fans of The Last Jedi, I think the vast majority of them are just people that, just movie didn't work for me. And one of the unfortunate things is, I think because of how vocal and how loud that cancerous, toxic segment of those people are, the majority get lumped in with them. The majority of people who just didn't like The Last Jedi because, for all fair reasons, it didn't work for them as a movie and they don't like it, which is totally fair. And it's really unfortunate that a lot of people, unfortunately, lump those people, the majority of the people who didn't like The Last Jedi, in with the minority of people who didn't like The Last Jedi for their own cancerous, toxic agendas and biases.
This is really freaking rich coming from you and the shill media that have bashed anyone who has dared to criticize The Last Jedi for several years. Even the critics that didn't like The Force Awakens, me included, have been basically called Nazis for years now. Now you are now trying to backtrack and change your statements along with your media shill friends. You've constantly gone out, not only you but the media as well, and bashed anyone who's had any trouble with The Last Jedi as what did you label this as cancer toxic segment, and sexist and racist as well. This is so rich coming from you. Now you don't want to say the majority of people. Well, thanks for coming out 2 years after the fact, when you've been getting bashed and criticized for your statements and arguments that don't hold water when you just look at them on a shallow level. You can debunk them pretty easily. But now, when you want to become popular again with the toxic segment, so to speak, you want to grow your audience because Geeks and Gamers just passed you, and so now you want to try to get back audience that have abandoned you because of your really bad arguments. So you say toxic, racist, and sexist people. Again, could you not give us one example of this? Because you never will. You'll just point at people like Geeks and Gamers and the Phantom Menace, not directly but indirectly, so you can be as vague as possible and label them as this. But put forward articles to support them. You use media and Hollywood as your shield when you criticize these people. So you say they dare to have a woman and a black guy in it. What the hell is Empire Strikes Back then? Where was the outrage back then? Can you explain to me this? They dare to have a woman and a black guy. Who is Princess Leia? Who is Senator Amidala or Queen Amidala? Padme Amidala, or whatever you want to label her character as. Yet you make this new argument that Star Wars fans have a problem with women and black people in the movies. This is so ridiculous. The backtracking now that it's the majority now. Well, again, you can't even say specific people or what the arguments are, because you only use strawman arguments as this dare to have a woman and a black guy in it. Like, can you at least show someone who has said this but you can't, because you're just arbitrarily pulling this out of your behind and want to label any critics of The Last Jedi, and you still can't admit that that Disney and Lucasfilm crapped on their audience, even years after the fact. It is amazing.
And that's unfair. That's unfair. It doesn't mean we don't acknowledge the cancerous, toxic bunch that's there, because they are there. All you have to do is look in any chat forum. They're there. But not only do they hurt all of Star Wars fandom, they also hurt the part of Star Wars fandom that didn't like The Last Jedi for completely legitimate reasons. Because now they cast their taint on them, and that's unfair and that's unfortunate. And that's why I always try to tell people, look, be very, very careful not just to lump in everybody who doesn't like The Last Jedi with that cancerous, toxic bunch. Because the odds are that they're probably just an average film fan that just watched the movie and it didn't work for them. And you got to be very, very careful about that. And you also got to be very careful about, look, it's the cancerous, toxic bunch that's the loudest. So don't be fooled. Like, and the reason they're so loud is because they want you to think there's more of them than there actually are. But don't be fooled by that. I think, the majority of people who just didn't like the film just didn't like the film. They didn't work for them. They thought it was a bad movie for their own movie-going fandom reasons. And we shouldn't lump that group in with the toxic group. The toxic group gives everybody a bad name. They give all of Star Wars fans a bad name. They give the legitimate movie fans who just didn't like The Last Jedi, they gave them a bad name. But that's what they like to do. They like to just drop in like a hand grenade and cause as much destruction and toxicity as much as they can. They just want to ruin things for people, and don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. That would be my challenge to you on that. All right.
Again, this is Rich coming from John Campea. Again, trying to avoid any responsibility of what he's actually done. So we should acknowledge the toxic bunch. Yeah, but then who are they? Yet again, this vague crap about they're just there. He said they're there in the chat rooms. They're there, and we have to acknowledge them. Okay. That's not even an argument. They hurt Star Wars fandom. How? The media, the journalists, the reviewers, everyone who has been shilling for Disney has constantly gone after fans, calling them sexist, racist. How do we even know who they are talking about? Because they have basically labeled all who hate or dislike The Last Jedi as sexist, racist Nazis. And you just said they dared to have a man and a black man and a woman in a movie, and that's somehow new. The irony of this, where you're supposed to be a Star Wars fan, and you can't even use the counter argument yourself, claiming to be a Star Wars fan, that Lando and Leia have been there for decades. They hurt Star Wars fandom really now. They do that really. I would actually think that it's you who is hurting Star Wars fandom with your constant shilling. You have access to Disney, and you are very visible. You've gotten your name out there in not only the media but also YouTube, and the only thing you've done so far, you've defended Black Panther, you've defended Captain Marvel, you've defended The Last Jedi, and I haven't really seen you actually give some criticism to Disney. All you're doing is basically say the right thing to get invited to the next premiere, so you can egotistically meet the celebrities you like, instead of having actually some backbone and say what you actually think of the movies. That's why I respect so much more Mauler and everyone else in the Phantom Menace, because they can actually break down things and tell you why they didn't like it and be consistent about it. And label them with the toxic bunch. I mean, basically saying the Last Jedi haters. But it's ironic that it's only one side as well. It's only the Last Jedi haters that are toxic, and it's a minority of them. Yet it's all we hear about. How about we never hear about the toxic bunch among the Last Jedi lovers? This is the narrative this guy continues to do, because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't care about his own arguments. He's only saying this vapid stuff to be able to say, look, I actually denounced and said, oh, it's the majority of the Last Jedi critics. They are actually good people. That's such garbage. There are more of them than there actually are. Yet again, this same could be said about the Last Jedi lovers or admirers, or I would call them shills. And they have the loudest voices, yet Hollywood seems to have an ear for them and listen to what they have to say. Rotten Tomatoes bans critics. They approve critics on Rotten Tomatoes that they like, and have removed basically audience being able to say, how much do we want to watch this movie? Removed, because they wanted to protect a woman. And now they're proved critics are basically just bashing anything that isn't Disney. Just look at Dave Chappelle being a little bit or I wouldn't say a little bit, I mean being non-PC, and he gets basically bashed by these SJW shills from the media, the Hollywood media. How is that not toxic? You constantly talk about the toxicity of fandom, yet you never call out your own side. You're a hypocrite. Anyways, I want to stop here. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.